Hello, welcome back to RetroBreak. I really hope you enjoyed part 1 of my Monkey Ball series review. If you haven't seen it already, go and click the link in the description, watch that, and then come back here, because in this episode I'm going to be taking a look at all of the handheld games in the series. Starting off with the first game here on the Game Boy Advance called Super Monkey Ball Jr. Monkey Ball Jr. is an incredibly ambitious game for the GBA. It uses full 3D graphics to amazing effect. When I first got the game, I think it was very near the launch of the game on the GBA, I was completely blown away by it. The graphics, the gameplay, it's so close to the GameCube game. At the time, I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. Of course, these days it's not that impressive, but back then, seeing a full 3D game on a handheld was just insane. I really can't stress enough just how excited I was to be able to play this on the GBA at the time. And going back to play it for this video, surprisingly it actually plays really well. Basically you use the D-pad to tilt the floor like normal, but if you hold down the A button the floor tilts a bit stronger, as if you're pushing forward a bit more on the GameCube analog stick. And if you press the B button instead, it tilts the floor a bit less. So although it's only got a D-pad for the controls, you do still have quite a good level of control over the game. And as well as the main game, it also still includes some of the mini-games. I love playing Monkey Golf on this in particular. It's really good to be able to just pause it, come back to it at any point. It's really good for a handheld. And following on from Monkey Ball Jr., a few years later the game was re-released on the Nokia N-Gage as just Super Monkey Ball, but it's basically exactly the same as the GBA game that came a few years earlier, except the screen of course on the N-Gage is vertical rather than horizontal, so you do lose a bit of visibility when you play in the game, but apart from that it plays really well. And of course at the time it was very, very impressive to be able to play such a high quality game on a mobile phone. Really, I think people at the time would have been blown away by what the Nokia N-Gage could do. Even to this day, when I got mine to try it out for this game, I was amazed. I really wish I'd had one at the time, I really do. And speaking of mobile Monkey Ball games, this wasn't the first Monkey Ball game on mobile. While I was making this video I actually did a little bit of research and I was amazed to find out that there was at least 6 or 7 games that came out on mobile before this one. Unfortunately I haven't been able to track them all down. I did try really hard, but let's have a look at the ones that I managed to find. I really did look everywhere for those games. I downloaded over 80,000 Java games and I still couldn't find them. A friend reached out to me on Twitter and sent me one of his games from the archives, but unfortunately that didn't work either. And the only thing that I could possibly find from the original Monkey Ball Java game was these very low resolution images off Sega's website that I found on the Wayback Machine, and one really blurry video from 2009. I did everything I could to try and get this game for the video, but unfortunately I just couldn't find it anywhere. And the same goes for the next Java game, which was called AiAi's Funhouse. Apart from one mention of it on this wiki, and a few things that I could find on Sega's website in the archives, there is literally nothing online about this game. It's so weird that these games have just sort of disappeared out of existence. So if anyone out there knows a way of finding these old Java games, please let me know, because I am absolutely fascinated by them, and I would love a way to be able to play them today. Thankfully though, there were a few Java games that I could find. The first one here is Super Monkey Ball Mini Golf, and this one plays really well. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually play them on the N-Gage, which is what I was hoping to do. I bought a memory card, but unfortunately it's ended up corrupting itself, and I bought another one and it was too small to go into the system, so unfortunately I've had to just use emulators for this, but at least I can see what the games were like. The mini golf game, like I said, it plays really well. You basically get to pick one of the 4 monkeys from the original game. Each of them has very slightly different strengths and weaknesses, and it's a very simple game. You choose the angle of the ball and you choose how fast you want to hit it, and that's literally it. The level designs are quite interesting and it gives you an overview of the stage before you start each level, and you just need to find one of the yellow exits. Some stages have several different exits, And the interesting thing is, the game isn't very frustrating because if you do run out of moves, you can choose just to move straight onto the next course. So it's a really easy game to play all the way through, and I did just that for this video. If you want to see an entire playthrough of it, check out my gameplay channel. I'll put a link in the description to that. Now, after this one, there was also another game that I couldn't find, and that's Monkey Ball Bowling. So if anyone knows anything about this one, let me know. It's once again one that I couldn't find much about at all. Ones that I could find though, and these ones are quite interesting, these are Monkey Tilt and Monkey Tilt 2. It's a really simple game. You basically land on a platform and you can tilt that platform left and right, and you just have to get down to the bottom of the stage and try and land as close as possible to one of the bonus points. The second game is a bit more interesting, it mixes the levels up a little bit, but the thing that's most interesting about this is in Monkey Ball Banana Blitz and Banana Blitz HD that I showed off in the last video, one of the minigames is actually Monkey Tilt. And I don't think a lot of people realise that it actually came from the old Java game, so that's something really cool. And a few years after Monkey Tilt 2 came out on Java, they actually brought it out again on Android called Monkey Ball Uki-Uki Seesaw, I think. Strangely though, just like all the Java games, this one I couldn't find much about either, which is quite surprising considering it wasn't released that long ago and it's for Android as well, so you'd expect to be able to find more. I even searched for the title in Japanese and all I could find was the official SEGA website, but the game is no longer available to download. And just a few years ago actually, SEGA also released Super Monkey Ball Bounce, and when this game came out I did download it as soon as it came out and I really enjoyed it. It's basically a Peggle clone, but I'm a huge fan of Peggle, so that didn't bother me one bit. Unfortunately though, at least on iOS, the game doesn't exist anymore, so it's just another case of games going missing that are downloadable. So it is really, really good that places like archive.org are trying to back these games up. I think these days people are a lot more conscious about the ability of possibly losing the games in the future, so thankfully they are being backed up more now than they were in the early 2000s. But unfortunately it does mean that quite a few of these earlier games got lost to time, which is a real shame. And of course there is one Monkey Ball game that's still available on iOS, so I've been sure to capture a lot of footage for this before it also disappears in the depths of time. It's quite a good game actually. When I first had my iPod Touch, one of the very first games I ever played on it was the original Monkey Ball for iOS.
When they told us that we'd only have 2 weeks to create a full 3D demo of the game, I thought that was impossible. But here it is, thankfully up and running, and it looks awesome. And we were able to do this because we were working with a terrific, flexible, and powerful SDK. So the object of Super Monkey Ball is to guide AiAi the monkey through a series of mazes, collecting bananas along the way for extra lives. It's a really simple concept to pick up on, and the controls are easy to pick up on too. All Gordon has to do to move AiAi around is tilt the device. It's such a comfortable, smooth way to play the game that even if you've never played a video game before, you'll know exactly what to do when you pick up an iPhone.
Unfortunately you can't download that one anymore, but thankfully, thanks to Sega Forever, they've actually re-released this one as Monkey Ball Sakura Edition for iOS and Android, and you can actually play it for free as well, which is great. It's quite a good game, but it is starting to show its age a bit, and the controls do take a little bit of getting used to. It's by no means my favourite game in the series. So I'm sure you'll agree, seeing them old Java games is absolutely fascinating, and I would love to do a bigger video on Java games in the future because I do feel like they're kind of getting lost to time. And not a lot of people really talk about them here on YouTube either, which is a huge shame. I have very fond memories of playing Java games when I was back in school. Anyway, the next handheld Monkey Ball game, I'm not moving on to the DS one just yet because I've got kind of an interesting thing here. This is a Monkey Ball game that came out in McDonald's Happy Meal toys back in 2004, according to this. So technically this is the next game in the Monkey Ball series. Unfortunately, even though I bought this one brand new off eBay, it was complete in the original packaging, the battery does seem to have almost died. So I only managed to get a tiny little bit of footage from it, and it doesn't even seem like the battery's replaceable either, which is a huge shame. So one day all of these little LCD games will just become completely unplayable. But even so, I managed to get a little bit of video, so here's what it looks like. Of course it's incredibly basic, but it's still a cool little thing to have. So as well as all these games, there was also a few Flash games that came out around the launch of some of the GameCube titles as well, which is really fascinating, and they'd actually been lost for a long time, but thankfully I managed to find a website that's managed to rescue them and put them online so you can play them, so have a look at these. I think it's really interesting. These were considered lost until just a few years ago when they got backed up on this website, so I'm really glad that I managed to get a chance to play them, even if they aren't that great. The first one is really awkward to control. Basically, you move your mouse from side to side and up and down, and that tilts the floor, and you just have to get to the end of the stage, which is definitely easier said than done. And the second game here is a minigame collection. It plays a lot better than the first game, but it's a shame that they didn't try and do a proper Monkey Ball experience again. Although this does have a really interesting version of Monkey Target, which, to be honest, considering it's made in Flash, doesn't actually play that badly at all. Apparently, there was another Flash game in 2006 called Super Monkey Disco Ball, but when I look online there's only 2 results on the entire internet that Google can see anyway. They are this wiki and my video that I uploaded last week. So if anyone has any idea what Super Monkey Disco Ball is that was released in 2006, please let me know. I can't find a single trace of this game out there on the internet anywhere at all. It's almost like it just doesn't exist at all, and whoever made this wiki is just trolling me, so I've been trying to get to the bottom of this and I just can't find it, so please, if you know anything, let me know. And now the next game here, I picked this one up on day one. It's actually still got the original price up there in the corner, $29.99 from Game. This is Super Monkey Ball Touch and Roll for the DS. Of course, when the DS came out, everyone was obsessed with having everything that the DS could do. It had to use the touchscreen, it had to use the microphones, it had to be full of all these different gimmicks, and of course Monkey Ball went ahead and did just that. The game itself though is absolutely fantastic. This is one of my favourite games in the entire series. It's basically Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, but in DS form. It's really impressive. Basically it includes a mix of levels from the first 2 Monkey Ball games, and it improves heavily on the gameplay of Monkey Ball Jr. And you can also use the stylus to actually move the screen very gently in certain directions, so you have a lot more control in this game. The one thing I don't like, of course, if you saw part 1, you might remember me complaining a bit about the levels in Monkey Ball 2. Of course, as they also make a return in this, some of the stages can get extremely frustrating, which isn't really a problem so much for Monkey Ball Jr. because that one's more based around skill than luck. But even so, I absolutely love this game, and once again they packed it full of really good minigames as well. Once again, of course, you probably guessed I'm a big fan of the Monkey Mini Golf game. I think it controls really well with the touchscreen. This is probably my favourite version of the mini golf in the Monkey Ball series. It's really easy to line up your shots, and it's really easy to gauge how much power you're going to hit the ball with too. As well as mini golf, it also includes a lot of the other classic minigames, but there is one brand new one for this game which is really interesting. It's called Monkey Wars, and it's actually a first-person shooter. The controls in this game are really weird though. You use a D-pad to move like normal, but to aim left and right you actually have to move this slider along the bottom of the screen, and then you basically tap anywhere you want to fire in that direction. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's a really fun distraction from the main game. And you can also play up to 4 players wirelessly as well. So all in all, I really enjoy Monkey Ball Touch and Roll. Now, unfortunately, yes, I do have to talk about this game again. This is Super Monkey Ball Adventure, but for this time on the PSP. And just like the GameCube one that I showed off in the last episode, this game is atrocious, and the PSP version is even worse than the GameCube one, if you can believe that. The graphics are worse, the frame rate's worse. I honestly don't understand why they released this game at all. They could have easily put Monkey Ball Deluxe on there instead. So why they went with Monkey Ball Adventure for the PSP, I have no idea, but it exists. That's all I really want to say about this one. I really don't want to go into any more detail about it at all. I'm sure some poor soul on YouTube has gone and done a full video on it, so if you feel the need to have a look at one of the worst games ever made, not just in the Monkey Ball series, go ahead and Google it or something. I really don't want to get into it. This isn't YouTube or the video running slow, this is genuinely how bad the frame rate is in this game. Some levels are borderline unplayable. And to be honest, as I'm saying what went wrong with the Monkey Ball series, this game's another case of what went wrong with the series. This is Monkey Ball 3D, and unfortunately I picked this one up on day one as well, thinking it would be really good like the Wii games or like the originals, but no, this is terrible. The one redeeming quality of this game is the fact that the 3D effect is actually really good. Because it was one of the very first games that came out on the 3DS, they weren't too worried about people's eyesight or anything like that, so the actual distance that you get in the game is really strong, and it does look really nice. But apart from the graphics, everything about this is terrible. It's incredibly easy. The first time I got this game, I was really excited, I put it in the DS, I played it for about an hour, and I 100% completed it, and I didn't die once. That's just how simple this game is. If you think of the levels from Monkey Ball Step and Roll that I showed off in the first video, but take out the balance board gimmick that makes those levels have a reason for being so basic, that's what this game is. It uses analog control, so they really could have done a lot more. I understand that maybe they were aiming for kids as the target audience, but they completely missed the mark. And even the mini-games in this are really a huge letdown. Apart from Monkey Ball Adventure, this is my least favourite game in the entire series, and I would not recommend it to anyone. But thankfully we're ending this video on a much better note. This is Monkey Ball Banana Splitz on the PlayStation Vita. Apart from the remake of Banana Blitz on the modern consoles, this is the last official new game that came out in the series, and I absolutely love it. They went back to basics with this game, and it really did the world of good. It has graphics that are sort of like Banana Blitz, but even more detailed and colourful. The level designs harken back to the older games in the series. I really can't fault this game at all. It includes analog stick controls as well as motion controls, and there's a lot of other things that it takes advantage of the Vita with as well. There's some touchscreen things, there's a host of different mini-games, and there's a really interesting level creation feature. And I just want to focus on this a bit now because I've seen a lot of videos that talk about this game, but the way they talk about it, it doesn't actually seem like they've actually played the game, which is really frustrating. So let me just get into what the level editing thing does. It's not a simple level editor that a lot of other YouTubers might make it seem like it is, because I don't think they've actually used it. Basically what you do, you take a picture of an object or of something that you've drawn using the camera on the Vita, and it tries to interpret that as a stage. So you don't really get the ability to actually build your own levels. You just sort of get the ability for the Vita to interpret an object in the real world and try and translate that into a level in the game. So it's not, strictly speaking, a complete level editor, but it is something really interesting, and I highly recommend this game to anyone that's got a Vita. I really do enjoy it. I was trying to figure out if there is actually a way to build levels by sort of drawing them out on paper first. So I drew out this really simple level with a few basic shapes and took a photo, hoping that somehow the game would understand what I was trying to do. But as you can see from this, I think it got really confused. Maybe it's because the paper had lines, or maybe it's because I'm doing something completely wrong, but I just can't get this to look anything like what I'm taking a picture of. Even when I'm using something as simple as this coaster here, I would expect the level to look like a circle, but it just seems to come out as random lines and shapes. So we finally made it. This was a look at every single game in the Monkey Ball series. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I had a fantastic time making this video, replaying all the games for this video and just reminiscing about how much I love the series as a whole. So there we go, that was the end of my Super Monkey Ball series review. I really hope you enjoyed both of these parts. I've had a lot of fun making them and it's definitely taken a long time. So if you can please comment, share this video with all your friends, everyone that loves Monkey Ball. I really want them to come and watch this because I've put a lot of time and effort into it and I'm sure you can tell that I'm just a huge fan of the series. So any support that I can get would be really appreciated. If there's any other game series that you'd like me to do this kind of video on in the future, let me know in the comments below. But that's it for now, I'll see you next week for the next video. Goodbye!